Answering unanswered questions from roots. Assalamu alaikum, my name is Yasmin. I'm a counselor and I have about 15 plus years of experience in community care, mentorship, and counseling. I have a few of the questions that were asked at Roots, and there's so many questions that end up getting asked that there's not enough time for them to be answered. I'm going to be answering questions from Community Heartwork and from 30 and up. What do I do if my dua feels unanswered? I've been consistent for years in doing tahajud. I'm losing hope, which makes me sad. I don't want to feel distant from Allah. We're told that tahajjud is a time in which your dua is answered, is mustajab. Mustajab means that Allah is going to answer your dua, but in the way that He sees fit by His own wisdom. And I know that it can be really difficult when we really want a specific outcome. Unfortunately, fortunately, this is the nature of expanding our ability to have trust and faith in Allah's will over our own. There's an ayah in the Quran that I'm going to read out from Surah Baqarah, which is Surah number 2, verse 216. And I'm going to paraphrase the latter half of this ayah, which is, perhaps you dislike something which is good for you, and you like something which is bad for you. Allah knows, and you do not know. So when we make a dua, and that dua isn't answered in the outcome that we want, and then the feeling is that we feel distant from Allah, know that you might potentially be having a transactional nature with Allah. Allah doesn't need our tahajjud or our prayers or our du'as. We have that in place because we need that. So be careful to not make your relationship with Allah transactional. If Allah gives me this thing, then I'll feel close to Him. If He doesn't give me that thing, then I feel distant from Him. This actually segues really well into another question that is here, which is, I sometimes donate with the hope that Allah gives me something better for donating. Does this negate the reward for donating? So again, transactional nature with Allah. Allah doesn't need you to donate. Allah doesn't need anything from you as a limitless being, right? We donate because we have to purify our wealth, because we have to take care of each other as a community, as humanity. Our wellness is tied deeply into the wellness of others. So donating is for our sake, and also for us to reap the rewards of that in the afterlife as well. But that doesn't negate your reward for donating if you're doing it with the hope that Allah will give you something better. But it does create a sort of dynamic with your relationship with Allah, excuse my cat, in which, and I like to really quote a hadith or a saying from Imam Ali, which is, there are those who worship God out of fear of His punishment, and so is the worship of the slave. There are those who worship God desirous of His reward, and so is the worship of the traitor. And there are those who worship God out of love, and so is the worship of the free. So all three of those forms of worship are valid. This is why Allah has given us the carrot and the stick, so to speak. The motivator for us to do good through rewards in the dunya and the akhirah, through Jannah, paradise, and through deterrents, like being punished in this world or the next. Because some people are not motivated otherwise through reward. Some people need punishment. Some people don't do well with punishment, need the reward. But there are those who worship out of love. And that is the worship of the free. And it's your choice at the end of the day what kind of worship you want to have and what kind of worshiper you'd like to be. But I would think that this is part of the reason why Allah granted us free will and made us have the capacity to be at a higher station than the angels. And I say that because Allah commanded the angels to bow down to Adam because He has that potentiality to be at a higher station than them. We have the capacity to be worshippers of the free. Are you itchy? Why are there waves of feeling sad and empty and undeserving, where you end up being lazy and unmotivated, specifically with school? Well, that could mean that you are either languishing, or you might be struggling with like a low-grade depression of some sort, not necessarily in a clinical sense, but that you're feeling sad. What's happening here is your lack of motivation is a clue that you're not feeling too great, that emotionally, internally. You might be stressed, you might be anxious about something, or you might be dealing with unprocessed grief. What you're describing is grief. You're feeling sad and empty and you feel undeserving. So lazy and being lazy, feeling lazy and unmotivated is a side effect. And I don't like the word lazy. My clients know that I always point out that word because lazy is a lazy way of describing a person's inner state. Laziness I see as a form of one of the 4 F's, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Lazy is freeze. Lazy is also sometimes flight. When we're overwhelmed, when we're stressed, we'll go into one of those forms of coping, of dealing with the thing that we're stressed about. And so laziness is one of those things. I would always say self-discipline is a huge part of being able to do what we want to do, but I would say that it's not the whole picture. Target and look at why you're feeling sad and undeserving, why you're having these feelings of emptiness. Emptiness to me is sort of the cousin of unfulfillment, of a lack of purpose, sometimes a lack of hope. So get curious about your emotional state and also look at your times of motivation and your times of lack of motivation as a breadcrumb trail. If you find yourself feeling motivated one day, I'm noticing I'm motivated. What has happened in the recent 24 hours or 48 hours that may have contributed to me feeling more motivated? And what if the opposite as well is true, is if you're feeling particularly unmotivated or particularly lazy one day, think, okay, what happened in the last 24 to 48 hours that might have contributed to me feeling this way? You're also talking specifically about school. Then it might be related to school. See what's going on with school. Is it pressure that you're getting from school specifically? Is it the way your parents are approaching you in regards to school? Do you feel a lot of pressure from your parents? Is this a conversation that you can have with your parents about how they can motivate you in a way that's more positive or more supportive to you? Another question is, why do I still feel distant from Allah even when I'm praying, reading Quran, etc., not committing any major sins? How do I fix that? That's an excellent question. For a lot of us, we've been taught that if you just do the rituals, you should feel connected. But I don't think it's that simple for everybody. My first question to you would be, do you know what you're reciting? Do you know what you're saying? Do you know the translation of the words that you're speaking in Salah, in Quran? If not, that could be a major reason, because when we engage in Salah and when we engage with the Quran, it's Allah's message to us. That's what the Quran is, a message to us. If we're not understanding the message, then it's going to be a lot harder to connect. So that'd be my first question, is do you understand the translation of everything you're saying? And if you do understand the translation of everything that you're saying with your Quran and with your Salah, you're not committing any major sins, then are you able to apply the translation of what you're saying to your day-to-day life? This is a huge thing that I think a lot of people miss when talking about having a connection with Allah, which is the personalization aspect to it. Are we seeing how Allah gives us signs in our day-to-day life? And the translation of ayah, which is verse in the Quran, is also signs. Allah has the capacity to communicate directly with all of us. And that's the beauty of living in this dunya, is everything is a sign from Allah. Everything is a sign that points back to Allah. Make it an interactive experience. If you see a sign and you're not sure what it means, ask Allah to give you a clear sign, and so on and so forth. Look around at your life as though you're living in what it is, which is a simulation created by the Creator, and see all the ways that this simulation points back to the Creator. I think that's a really great place to start. And ultimately, always ask Allah. You feel distant from Allah? Ask the one who created you. Ask the one who has created the simulation. How to approach a spouse who doesn't pray. I want to encourage him, but don't want him to steer away as well. He showed himself as praying before marriage. This is a tricky one because it could come off it could raise somebody's defenses when you tell them to pray. It might make them feel like you're, taking the role of a parent with a spouse. I would have a conversation first with your partner about what spirituality means to him. Like, what does deen mean to him? What's his connection to Allah? Like, is there a connection there, a desire for a connection there? This is very similar to the previous question that I was answering, which is connecting with Allah goes beyond just the rituals. Of course, the rituals are prescribed to us from Allah because that is Allah's way of showing us what the best way is to connect. But some people need to first have it in their mind in the first place that they want to connect. So before you start, going into the salah, see if he's even motivated to connect with Allah. If he is, see how he's doing it. Does he feel like it's enough? Is he satisfied with his connection? And if he feels unsatisfied, get curious. Why is he unsatisfied? What does he feel like he wants to do more of? He might end up telling you, yeah, I wish I prayed more on his own accord. If he says that, great. Then you're in a position where you can be like, well, how can we help each other? How can I help you stay accountable to praying, if that's what you want to do? If he says that he feels connected and this is great and he doesn't feel like he needs to pray, I'd ask him, well, why were you praying at the beginning and what made you fall off? My point being here is aim first to be sincerely curious and inquisitive as much as possible before you go into correcting your partner. A lot of people resist being corrected and told. Unfortunately, all of our egos have a place to play in this. But if you can just get compassionately curious, not interrogative, not, trying to make it really clear that you have an agenda by asking leading questions, just compassionately curious about his experience with spirituality, you might find that it's a much more fruitful discussion than if you just told him to pray. My dad's sister's family always makes my mom upset and causes problems. I'm always left to choose a side. I can't remain neutral and sometimes I lose my peace. Thoughts? That's a tricky one when it comes to family. So your dad's sister's family. So your dad's family, unless you mean your sister's in-laws. Regardless, they always make your mom upset and cause problems. You're left to choose a side. It's tricky because you shouldn't be expected to choose a side. All of these people are your family members. I would say if someone comes up to you like, what do you think? What's your opinion? What's right? What's wrong? You can very respectfully say, I don't want to have to be forced to choose a side because you're all my family. And this is something that I think you guys need to find a mediator to work out between you two. If someone comes and is like venting to you about something that they're experiencing as a result of somebody else, it's up to you if you want to be the one who listens to that venting session. But it doesn't mean that that's your invitation to go and try to solve the problem for them. And I know that that can be really hard when you are in the middle of all of these things, or when you are the family mediator, or you're the one who everyone goes to when there's a problem. Always try to steer and encourage that person to do the mature thing, which is to have a mature conversation with the person that they have a problem with. If they say, oh, I can't do that, there's no way I can talk to so-and-so about this issue, then you just have to be like, okay, well then I can't help you, right? Like, I really think that it would be good if, you don't feel like you can talk to this person, see if you can get a trusted community member or a trusted community leader or a family friend, someone to be the mediator. If these are your own parents, it's much harder for you to be a neutral mediator in this. It's just simply not fair because you love and honor both of your parents equally, and you can't possibly be expected to choose a side in that sense. And also, you don't necessarily have the same life experience or authority or power to be able to mediate effectively. So I would say just think about that, and start to draw loving boundaries around this sort of thing, because you're saying it's making you lose your peace. So they're not at peace and then you're not at peace. So like, what's the point, right? If nobody's at peace, then it's clearly not effective. It's not helping you or them. Make istikhara, ask Allah to guide you on the best way to say and speak about these things with your parents. Talking about dunya, I have my heart on someone I like. I'm married, so how can I get my thoughts to change for the sake of Allah and not be part of a zina? If you're married and your heart is gravitating to somebody else and you care about your marriage, stop seeing that person. Stop talking to that person. Like, first and foremost, just like get out. Get out as much as you can. If there's someone that you can't help but see, they're at work, a coworker that you see every day, make it a point to stop talking to them. How are you going to do that? Think about how to do that in a tactful way. Reduce conversation, slowly, gradually build your distance, and then look at what's happening, why you feel like your heart is inclined to this other person, that you're not getting fulfilled by your partner at home. This indicates to me that there's potentially some marital issues happening at home that you really, really need to work on and sort out. Highly encourage couples counseling to look into that. If you're just genuinely unhappy and the marriage is just not working out and you've even been trying couples counseling, maybe that's your sign that you need to end things. But don't cheat. Just don't cheat. What do I do if someone doesn't want to forgive me? Well, let's first talk about how to ask for forgiveness. You have to own up to your actions. Be very clear about what it is that you did wrong. It's not enough to just be like, all right, I said sorry. Why aren't you accepting that, right? It's enough. You have to be like, I'm sorry for this behavior. I should not have done it. And then you also follow with a, next time I will do this differently. That's a proper apology. And if somebody still doesn't accept your apology after that, oh, and then I would also say, add at the end of the apology, how can I make it better or fix it? What can I do to, repair? If that person doesn't want to repair, they don't accept your apology, then there's nothing you can do after that. That person has every right at that point to choose what they want to do and where they want to go with that relationship moving forward. Now, that can leave you with a lot of grief or confusion. Like, okay, I apologize, and it was a really good apology, and I sincerely and earnestly tried to remedy it as best as I could, and this person still didn't accept it. Then use that experience as a way of growing for your next relationship or your next friendship or the next time that something like this happens. Sometimes the only way that we can grow and learn from something is when we lose a friendship or a relationship because we did something wrong.